Possibly the man who's most responsible for this podcast is back in the news, which has nothing to do with why I started this podcast when I did. It was just a pure coincidence. But my name is Matty. This is Matty Does Life, and this is episode 2. Um, I'm actually recording this on the same day as episode 1. I might actually upload them together because people have been binging things, and the more episodes and content, the better. So, I'm talking about Robert Kiyosaki, which is a name that some people love, some people hate. He wrote 2 books that I read that I found very influential on my thinking, if not so much my actions. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, really, um, which I really identified with, kind of in the opposite, kind of in the same way that his own background of having come from the parents from a family that was well educated but didn't really know anything about money. And in my case, my parents were very open about it. My dad is a research chemist with a PhD. He really he had an investment person to take care of his stuff. He didn't really understand most of that, and in fact, I saw my parents struggle. All the time I was growing up, they followed the rules as they were taught. Right? They followed the rules as they were taught. Things like when you move, you look at you want to buy instead of rent because you're paying. That way, you're not paying somebody else's mortgage. You're paying your mortgage, and you're building equity. And you want to buy the cheapest house in the most expensive neighborhood that you can, because that's how you make money. That way, you're if it's your place bringing down everybody else's property values, and any improvements you make just improves everything in the neighborhood. Um, the problem is that when you're climbing kind of the corporate ladder, even if you're not intending to, but uh, that strategy only makes sense if you're like actually building equity. And if you're moving every few years, chances are you're not building up a lot of equity. Now, also you have to take into account, housing price increases. So if the value of real estate goes up over the course of you living there, even if you're not paying down the mortgage very much in terms of principal during the first 5 years, if the property value goes up by 20% over those 5 years, you're still potentially gaining 20% there when you sell the house, if you sell the house the way that you want to. If the reason why you sell the house isn't related to, you know, a lot of other people selling their house that's basically the same as yours, built during the same time period, at the same time, to the same pool of buyers. In that case, chances are you're not going to be making the returns you might be expecting. And that was the kind of thing that happened all the constantly as I was growing up. And they were doing the best with the information they were given. The problem is that things were changing. That the things that they had been taught as constants actually weren't constant, and kind of that's one of the things that I've learned as I've grown up, as I've become more mature, more understanding of how things work, and the and one of the things that Robert Kiyosaki writes about is this idea of building pipelines. And pipelines are, the each one has its own stream. In this case, you might consider it a revenue stream. But what qualifies as a pipeline? And how do you build a pipe? I mean, a pipeline, that's infrastructure, right? That is some costs. But generally speaking, other than some basic maintenance every now and then, once you have the product flowing through the pipeline, it kind of runs itself. So you're not having to do daily oversight and continuing to trade uh, hours for dollars. And you can build multiple pipelines if you can get the investment there. And one of the things that as I have as I've gotten older, and I'm nearly 50, so I kind of grew up with I grew up with computers. And I mean, I remember the first computer that I can remember. I don't even know if it counts as a computer, but I remember this thing, and I can't find any. I don't even know what it was called or anything like that. But I remember that there was something where we could plug it into the TV, and there's a keyboard. I believe there's a keyboard, and there's a box, and there's a tape deck that plugged into the box. And and you could play games on it, but the games, I mean, there are things like I especially remember something about a baseball game, and you did basic math questions in order to hit the ball. That's what I remember. And I was like maybe 6 at the time, so I might not be quite remembering the details properly, but that's my recollection of the first thing that we did that was a quote unquote computer, was something that was literally like an audio tape deck that I think that the tapes were actually like the metallic. They were a lot thicker than the audio tapes that I remembered from later on. But but I've I've watched this whole thing. I've even participated in this whole change over time to where the internet is today, which I still contend that the best time was that the sweet spot was back when Yahoo Site Builder still worked, because my God, that was such a fantastic program for creating your own professional type website. That was that Web 3.0 broke it all with its all of its um, with how it works. And I know, old man yelling at clouds, but that's still my contention, because I could just do it all, and I didn't have to know coding. I didn't know how to do everything, but you still had like YouTube that you could upload videos to and embed them on your own website, and you could dictate where on the website it was. You could rearrange everything. It was just such a fantastic program for somebody who is just trying to start up a business. And um, but a lot of the tools were there, and that is kind of the thing that really intrigues me about the modern era. Really, is that the tools are there. When I think of pipelines, I think of infrastructure. I think of, oh my God, you have to acquire the land, you have to build these pipelines, you have to get the permits, you have to convince everybody to go along with it, and it's so much work. And even then, I mean, you can you build a company actually to run the pipeline, right? So you're still having to have other people help you, and a lot of there's going to be a significant capital expense. And I look at what the modern world gives us, okay? And I say gives us because these are not what I built, right? I don't use these. I did not, I have this phone that I'm recording on. I have a small lavalier mic that I bought for $12, I think, off of Amazon sometime last year. And I'm recording on that because I have an Android phone, and audio on Android seems to be pretty garbage. So everybody said get a little lavalier mic, so I did it. And that's what I'm using to record on. And I didn't build this. I didn't build my phone. I didn't build the cell phone towers. I lease it, a little bit at each month. I mean, I say a little bit, but I mean, my total, I'm on T-Mobile, and my total bill is like $224 a month, and that includes paying on two phones. That means I have their home their home wireless router thing that with unlimited 5G, which is absolutely awesome. That's like $70. I have the two lines for the two phones. I subsidized a case on one of them, and that's included in that. I have we have an iPad with its own data thing. And I think we may have one other device. I'm not sure. It's a lot. We do a lot through it. We don't have cable or anything else. Everything that we do is through our T-Mobile 5G stuff, and it has been perfect for us. I have not even been tempted to contact Google Fiber, which is also an option. And if I didn't have T-Mobile, I would probably go with Google Fiber because I don't like cable companies. But all this infrastructure I can access pretty darn cheaply. It used to be that in order to get your own business up and running, you had to have a lot of money, really, in order to be able to do it right. Today's houses tend to be a lot bigger than the houses in years past. If you look at the historical data on the average size of homes being built, and I'm not gonna read them off because I've seen it. I don't remember exactly what the numbers are. You can look it up easily for yourself. This is a podcast, which is an audio thing, so go do your own research on that. But I know that the average size of homes and apartments being constructed over time has increased. So the housing stock we have available today, the houses are physically bigger, which means that you might have more extra space that you can devote to business related things at home. And you don't even really have to do much in the way of marketing. You don't have to know much in the way of marketing in order to, for example, go on eBay. I mean, you learn how eBay works, right? There's certain ways in which eBay works and certain ways in which eBay doesn't work. So you go out and you read the stories, and those stories are out there, right? They're not locked away behind some paywall. You can literally how to make money on eBay and find 50 people all eager to share with you their secrets of success. And a lot of times, I mean, they'll throw stuff out that you don't even have to give an email address for. Although everybody would certainly love to have your email address for their newsletters, because the newsletters come with advertising here and there that they get paid on, which is why people like to do newsletters. And I'm not saying newsletters are bad. I'm just saying that there is a definite, that's a pipeline, right? That newsletter is a pipeline, right? Your email addresses are, that's how they don't sell your information to somebody, but they say, hey, we have 500,000 emails here, and we send a newsletter out with actual content once a week, and these are people who want to see this, because we make it really easy to cancel, right? So we know that these are people who want to see what we have, who want to see what we have to say, and we can give you access to this for X amount. And these people who are receptive to the things around it will thus be made more, will be more easily persuaded that you're not evil just because you have advertising there, right? I heard today because it used to be back when I was trained as a store manager for Radio Shack. One of the things that they talked about during our training which was like a 6-month long classroom course, if I remember right. One of the things that they touched on was that the was that people did not make a buying decision until they'd seen the 8th impression. Now, with social media, that number has increased to 11. The number that I heard was 11.1, and that's like saying that the average family has 3.2 members or something like that. You're not going to get 0.1 impressions, but we're going to say 12. I'm going to say 12 because that makes it a lot more. That's a number that makes sense, right? So a dozen. It takes a dozen impressions for somebody to say, okay, this is something I actually want. And this is like episode number 2 for me. So if you're listening, you are way ahead of the curve, and or I've already put out a bunch of other episodes. But I mean, this is a form of marketing. I mean, I'm here telling you how the world works, but at the same time, I'm gonna have a promo for my own project at the end of this. I'm not getting paid for it unless somebody actually signs up to help me with this project, and even then I'm not really getting paid for it because the money is to go to something else. But you see how this works, right? That's why everybody, there will be a link to my Patreon down below, so that you can, pay $3 a month, of which I would get maybe $2.60 a month, because of course Patreon takes their cut, and I haven't done the exact math, but I'll probably get about $2.60 out of that $3, and they keep that 40%. So my podcasting actually is marketing for Patreon as well. They benefit financially from me saying, hey, I'm gonna have the people who like me run their money through you. Now I have to have that, right? I have to have that because you can't slide a credit card or even cash over your phone for me to accept out through my SD card slot or something, right? That's not the heck. There has to be somebody who does that, and everybody's going to charge a fee for it. And this is just a very convenient way to do it, and to be able to say, hey, you get some benefits from doing this. And so all of this, what I'm saying is that this is a pipeline. This is the kind of thing that Robert Kiyosaki was writing about several decades ago. And I've seen the barrier of entry for a lot of different things drop tremendously. And some of it is just because of the availability of knowledge, right? I mean, when I first started out in the workforce, there were seminars that you could go, that your employer could send you to, for how to be a good leader, how to manage stress, how to do this, how to do that, but it might cost thousands of dollars for them to send you to do this. And so it only went to the people at the top, and it was very limited as to who got to go. And because of that, it wasn't very well disseminated. What it actually took to be a leader, to be a good coach, to be able to work well with people, to understand people. This was knowledge that if you didn't observe it, or you didn't read the exact books that made it click for you, you probably were never going to experience. And that meant that in general, and I think that this continues today, because a lot of employers, they just don't care. But it is so easy for people these days to go and find good information, even if you don't agree with everything, even if there's so much fluff and you can just cut it out and all that information, you can find good information. You just have to be willing to do a little bit of work, but you don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to access it like you used to have to do. And so I think that in general, if people care about the systems they build, they're going to be better. They're going to have better appeal, be more longer lasting, be better for society as a whole. And that is part of the infrastructure, to my mind, of building a pipeline. because there is no way that I could have spoken like this like 30 years ago. It would not have happened because I didn't have that knowledge, and I was, you know, it was just not going to happen. And part of it was a journey, but part of it was that I was able to access better information. I was able to not just sit there and read a book that I paid, I don't know, $10 for at Walden Books, and when they sold out, and that was it. That we don't live in that kind of restricted walled garden thing. People talk about walled gardens still, like the Apple ecosystem, things like that. You could say that's people use the term walled garden, but that has always existed. There's always been things that you have access to just because of where you are or previous choices that you made that you may not even realize impacted the limit your ability to access the information that you would want someday. And all that is gone. You want to learn how to do something, you hop on YouTube and somebody will be on there showing you how to do it. Why? Because YouTube gets money from eyeballs. Their ads make them money, and people put things on YouTube out of ego or because it's a way of creating some kind of a legacy for themselves, or because it makes them money, and they create content that people want to watch, so that including how-tos, and they don't have to be big how-tos. They just have to be engaging. The barrier for that, the bar for that has risen quite a bit from the early days, but it's tremendous if you're able to do it. If you're able to put together a good design, you can sell that design. If you're able to do something that somebody else values, then you can make that available to them. It's not really a pipeline, though. The pipeline would be you do it once and then it just keeps going. And that's that right there is what I think, because when I look at people who have their own businesses, the one thing that that he taught me in his books, the one thing that he said that really stuck with me was, okay, I have my own business, but do I run the business or does the business run me? Why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I am passionate about this one thing and I want to live in it 24 hours a day, or at least as close to it as possible? Or am I trying to do this so I have more control over my time, that I can do more of what I like to do? And to me, that is more where I am, because I have my passions, but my passions are not really commercially viable. I mean, I hope they will be. I hope that I can use marketing like these podcasts to be able to pursue that full time. But I still have to have income. I have a regular 9 to 5 because that's what supports me. This isn't going to support me. It's and I don't intend for this to support me at all. This money goes towards helping other people, and that is a big thing when it comes to pipelines. Is, why are you doing this? What are you hoping to get out of it? And because otherwise it just become pipelines of misery, drudgery. Business you run from your home. I'm sorry, but if that means that you're now sitting there at the computer doing something that is making you money, but you're doing it from like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. because that's what it takes. I don't really see that as beneficial. It's something that something that I would want to do. So, I don't run that kind of a business. I have no intention of running that kind of a business. And that is where the pipelines come in, because I look at things like podcasts, YouTube, things like that, and I get excited because, oh, you know what? I can record an episode, and I can put it out there. And it will be out there for as long as I want it to be out there. And people can click on it. People can listen to it. And the longer it's out there, the more potential it has for bringing me a little bit of money over time. And that means that every one of these episodes is a pipeline. It's not about, oh, this channel is a pipeline. It's not. It's a whole bunch of them bundled together. And that gets me really excited. And now the article that I saw about Robert Kiyosaki today was about Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin enthusiast at all. I wish him all the best. I understand why people get into Bitcoin. It's definitely not for me, but I understand it, and I wish him all the best. I kind of wish that his name wasn't connected to it, but I don't really get into his personal business. I don't know where he stands on a lot of things. I just know what he wrote in these 2 books that were really good. And for that, I will always be thankful for him, because I actually have dodged a bunch of bullets in my lifetime just kind of following, not necessarily the steps that he laid out, but the thinking behind it of, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for money? Am I doing this because I want to control my own schedule? Because why? And that may not be why he wrote those books, but that is the beauty of knowledge, is you don't know how it's going to impact somebody. All you do is you throw it out there, and hopefully people take something away from it, but you have no control over what it is they're going to take away from it, which, it's art. It's art. You bring one thing, and the audience brings themselves and sees what they need or want to see in it. And you end up with something that is different than what you intended, that's a surprise to you. And if that's something that you can't take, then you just don't read the comments on the videos or whatever, Don't read what the critics have to say. And that's, but that's kind of where, that's kind of what brought it all back to me, as I actually read that article. I saw that headline after I published my first episode, which is like, I did it like, several hours ago. Just one of those timing things. It was just very serendipitous that, I was thinking about him when I decided to start this podcast, and then I saw that article, a little while later, and it was just, and so I decided to go and record the second episode, which I hope that you indulge me on it. If not, well, you gave me 28 minutes of your time, and I appreciate that. If you want to be involved in helping provide affordable housing to people here in the U.S., follow my Patreon. Throw me $3 a month. I greatly appreciate it, and together we can build a better world. You have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time.